normal Sunday show, and Wayne and I were just talking about, because I had to do a little adjustment on my audio for some reason. Who knows why these things happen, but I had to do some adjustment on my audio. And we just both remarked that in reality, life is nothing but a series of adjustments, isn't it, Wayne?
24/7.
And you said even when you're sleeping.
Yes, you think about it. Your body's healing itself most of the time.
Your body is healing itself.
Yeah. Most people
Steve
think that
Oliver, Warrior Princess, Rachel Stone, Tanya Henley, Awakened Being, greetings to all of you as everybody starts filing in.
Yeah. So even when you're dreaming, you're not actually in your body, but yeah, it's changing all the time.
I think it is. I think it is. So the only constant in life is change, and the only way that we're going to be able to get ourselves together is to be able to be flexible, to be able to make adjustments on the fly. And the more adept I think you get at making adjustments, the better that you're going to be at living this game of life. And Wayne, I think it really is a game. I'm convinced it's a game.
It's interesting. Lynn and I were talking this morning, and I told her, I said, isn't it interesting? The first physical sensation you feel upon entering is pain.
Most likely, yeah, I would say so.
You can talk to my wife, the nurse, for 37 plus years. It's pain. The baby that is born is shocked by pain. And it's really, as she puts it, it's the electrical switch that gets everything going.
Oh, pain is?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Pain is the electrical switch that gets everything going. Do we ever get away from that in our life, or do some of us still in our psyche have to have some pain? Because, Wayne, we've met those people that have to have pain in their life in some form or fashion, or they're not happy.
I'm coming to the point in my life where I believe the great minds of our past, our ancestors, were in fact correct. And two observations. Number one, the human soul can never be satisfied.
The human soul can never be satisfied. That's both good and bad, I think.
Well, you think about it. If you become totally satisfied, you become satiated, you're no longer producing.
Exactly. And I've been there.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have. And the other thing is that when you think about our existence, it's pain that allows us to enjoy joy.
You know, I'm working out a lot again now, and there's an old gym saying, no pain, no gain.
You feel it. I mean, you know, when I pick up the barbells every morning, you still feel it.
You do. So does that mean we should be seeking pain? Are we masochists?
No, I think it's the fact that we're born. Think about it this way, Jeff. Maybe we're born to fulfill the last requirement. Because
what's
no one
the
gets
last requirement?
Death.
Maybe we're dead already, Wayne. Maybe this is death.
Well, there's a lot speculated on that. It's really interesting. Been reading as all of us do. Got my book of the dead, and what I find so interesting is our species is obsessed with death. You know, it's like you can't escape it. And no matter what mantra, religion, ideal, whatever, it's so interesting to see how we deal with that. With that
or
very
don't
subject.
Deal with it.
Wow. That may be true. So
interesting. So do you really think that, let's say that it's a truism from Lynn the nurse and human observation. Let's say it's a truism that the original primary motivator of human beings is pain. That being said, is it possible, and is it part of our enlightenment and our development and our growth, to move away from a pain-motivated existence to an existence motivated by a higher, more developed, more spiritual, if you will, motivator aside from pain?
As you were talking, I'm recalling the Book of Origins in the Nag Hammadi. And if you go by that myth of thinking, it becomes very clear that, as it says, matter is chaos. Physical matter is chaos.
Physical
And
matter is chaos.
it's stated right there. It's where God screwed up. The original thought. People think that God is perfect. It's wrong. God, if you can't even take God as any longer as a definition of the infinite being. When the infinite being had the first thought, it didn't know everything. And it screwed up. And it's screwed up by what we see here today. In fact, I was reading in the secret book of John, and they basically believe,
which is in the Nag Hammadi.
It is. And it's real interesting. I'm glad we're bringing this up because it wasn't, well.
Here's the Nag Hammadi right here, just barely out of camera range.
Yeah. So in it says here that there are really only two fundamental models, metaphors for religion. Two basic ways that divinity really can be modeled after human reality. The first is social modeled religion. It is the model or set of metaphors with which we are most familiar. It underlies most of the non-theological and much of the theological discourse in Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, and is at the heart of Western religion. God is said to be Father, King, or Judge. God sends messengers, passes judgment, rewards, and punishes. God loves and God hates, is the inspiration for books, and for Christians can be depicted as human being, thus Jesus. All such ideas and metaphors are drawn from human social interaction. What is going on in the divine realm is said to be similar to what is going on in human society. God is the Lord and wants what a Lord would want by way of praise and adulation. What counts most is correct interpersonal behavior between God and humanity and between people in human society. There is nothing unusual about the model. It is the basis of virtually all Western religion, Christian, Jewish, Islamic. The second metaphorical scheme is mind-modeled religion. The universe, the whole of reality, especially the divine, are thought to be like a mind. Mental terms become dominant forms of metaphors. Key terms are mind, word, wisdom, thought, reason, and so forth. In this model, the nature of reality can best be known, indeed it can only be known, through interperspection. Salvation comes through knowledge, insight, and meditation rather than through proper behavior, obedience, and agreement with established dogma.
So that's a very good synopsis of Abrahamic religion and the Hermetic mindset.
Bingo.
The Abrahamic religion being the former, the Hermetic mindset being the latter. And think about it, Wayne. Islam, Christianity, Judaism, the three dominant religions of at least the Western world, and you put them together, I think they're probably the Abrahamic faith is arguably the largest.
Two-thirds.
And I've heard Derek Brose of Global Witness say this, and I think it's true. We want a God that justifies us acting like we want to act. And that God acts just like we want to act. He's vengeful, he's jealous, he can kill, he can maim, he can destroy, he can get mad, he can get jealous, he can do whatever he wants. And if we have that kind of a God, then we can be that kind of people. So it's very comfortable and easy for us. But if we go the other route, where we have to become mature and accepting and understanding and patient and somewhat passive and be focused not on material physical gain, but upon the esoteric gain, that's not quite as fun a God. In fact, that removes the whole God equation and puts responsibility on us. So you can see the dichotomy that we're living in this world, and you can see our challenge of moving from the I want to be like Mike God to the I need to develop myself and discover myself and do the inside work God.
Very spot on. One of the things I'm learning as I'm reading the secret book of John is this, Jeff, is that I had never read it quite as it's being put here. Gnosticism sees that God is insane, that God went insane, and we are the result of that because God, the Godhead, forgot who it was. It forgot and it made the bold statement, there is no other God other than me. Mm-hmm. And that is the ego, the arrogance, the sin of God. and is the fact that God had to create a personification of thought in itself, and that became Pistis Sophia. And with Pistis Sophia as the representation of a personification of the thought of God, it was within that confusion that things began to develop, and that's where we get thus, the stories coming forth.
Yeah.
The Aldebaoth, etc.
Yeah, the way I read it is that Sophia and her consort had a argument, and she stormed out and he wouldn't go with her, and as a result of that energetic exchange, Yaldabaoth was created, and here we are. So we're all really the creation of a domestic spat between two beings that we would define as God, that created the being that's given us all the trouble until we find out who he is and find out that we can rise above him.
Bingo. I mean, and this is what I think's happening right now, Jeff. There is we're talking about it. Other people are talking. It's like the sign I have behind me. Who is the father of Jesus Christ?
Yeah. And full light spectrum says everyone in this chat room probably feels like a stranger in this world. And I think you do initially, but you finally get to the place, like, I know Wayne is there and I'm there, Derek's there, Rex is probably there, where you don't feel like a stranger anymore. You just don't give a damn.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Money doesn't matter. I mean, wealth, prestige, fame, it doesn't matter. Because what you really become down to is this. We have, and this is just R. Wayne Steiger's opinion, we have one shot at this. And I really do believe it. I don't believe in the reincarnated soul in the expression that has been taught. But in my personal beliefs is you've got one shot at this. And if you screw it up, I don't know what it happens on the other side. But I have a sense that there is going to be a test. I don't know what it is. I got this vision.
I hope you're taking notes, ladies and gentlemen.
And seriously, this is what I saw. I saw myself in this white room. It was white everywhere. You couldn't see the top, you couldn't see the bottom. It was infinity white. But yet, in the center of it, there was this test. And I remember when I was in school, the paper kind. And the damn thing was that thick. And I'm sitting down, and then I woke up. It was like, what? No one told me this. Anyway, I digress.
So it was a pop test.
Yeah, it may have
pop quizzes, but this was a pop test.
Yeah. But it gets back to that one question that, I have behind me. And I've been doing so much reading because this really becomes a conundrum for many people. I have one person who I am really concerned about because when this question I pose to them, that and as we keep on reading.
Thank you, Jenny.
Very nice of her. That here's the question. If you believe in the genealogy of Matthew and you follow it, it only leads you to one inevitable conclusion, and that is Yahweh is the son of the father of the Son, Jesus Christ. And that begins to really mess with your head. So wait a minute. You've got Yahweh who gave birth to a Savior.
Isn't They're raping a 13-year-old girl in her sleep.
And it gets worse. It's the same damn thing that he condemned the world to in Genesis 6:4. How is it any different?
Maybe that's why, Wayne, people are moving away from the Abrahamic religions and moving to things like, how many millions of people today will be worshiping at the altar of the NFL?
Oh, very good point. Very good point. And there was an opt-in on foxnews.com, and it was why are people leaving the church? And the guys...
foxnews.com.
Yep. And wow. He makes and it's an opt-in editorial piece, and the guy is bemoaning the fact that the Pew Research Center that just did this survey did not allow enough people reasons for why they're leaving. He had to acknowledge that the exodus out of the Abrahamic Judeo-Christian belief system is happening. And it's
the second book of Exodus.
Yeah, it is. Oh, that's very good, Jeff.
Thank you.
You have to write that down. So he's saying, well, why are they leaving? Well, they're called nuns. That's what we are, the nuns. That because the church doesn't have the answers. And he was saying, well, they're forgetting the rich beautiful history of Christianity. And I thought to my God, so this dude has no idea what he's talking about.
He doesn't. He's
Rich,
mind controlled.
yeah, rich, wonderful history of Christianity. Anyway,
It was spread at the beginning at the edge of the Roman sword, and it's still spread by war and hatred and exclusion.
yeah.
If you don't believe like my God, I have the right to kill you, and if I don't get to you, he'll kill you in the end. Only he won't just kill you. He'll torture you forever and ever and ever and ever. But remember, God is love.
God is love.
Ladies and gentlemen, how do you... Oh, boy, Nigel just came up with a good one. Instead of Christianity, Twistianity.
Way to go, Nigel. That's very true. I mean, it's in complete contradiction when you read the supposed 10 Commandments, and on my channel, we just did the actual reading. It was not 10 Commandments. It was 10 words, and it didn't have anything to do with spirituality. This was a physical contract, covenant with the Elohim Yahweh, with Moses and the Israelites, the Hebrews. And that's all it was. And yet today they have twisted it. I love that because it exactly plays into it. That is somehow the commandments of God. It didn't have anything to do with a commandment to God at all. There's the thing. Yahweh never said he was the God of this world. He said he was the God of the Hebrew world.
Yep. And many people believe, and I've been studying this, and I'm closer and closer to thinking that it's true, is that Moses wanted to get him and his people the heck out of Egypt, realized he couldn't do it by himself, so he reached out to an otherworldly extraterrestrial entity who said, okay, let's make a covenant, a little quid pro quo, Clarice, and now we have it.
Yeah. And the thing is that people don't realize, Jeff, the Hebrews broke the covenant. They broke the contract. Yahweh is off the hook. He doesn't have to abide to the terms of the agreement.
Why is that, Wayne?
Well, because when you go into a contract, into a court of law, let's say you and I come into a contract and one of us break it.
Right.
And one of us takes to court. The court is going to weigh the precedent of what the covenant was founded on.
Right.
And, you know, people get this religiosity thinking that somehow this Yahweh God is this, I don't know what it is now. I mean, it's morphed so much. That's why I keep on asking, is Yahweh the Father of Jesus Christ? But the point is, the contract was broken.
It was. Interesting. Interesting. And you start thinking about if Moses was convening with an extraterrestrial, it starts making a lot of sense why he would come down off the mountain and be turned all white and be radiant. Maybe he had some radiation coming off of him, Wayne. It's not very hard to understand how a extraterrestrial being could part a Red Sea. It's not that hard to understand how an extraterrestrial being could destroy Pharaoh's army and not leave so much as a chariot wheel anywhere. The bottom of the Red Sea should be loaded with Egyptian artifacts if they really drown that army in the Red Sea. There's not even a rain from a chariot in the bottom of the Red Sea. Come on, people. Wake up. Either it didn't happen or it happened in some way that it left absolutely no residue.
And then you take the term Kivov. Now, when I studied back in the day with Kenneth Copeland and Hagen and all the rest.
I think I said Red Sea, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Okay. And so Kivov always was translated to me meaning the glory of God.
That's not Shisky Bob, is it? That's all I know.
High five on that one, buddy. And so when we find out the true meaning of Kivov, it's a ship. That's what Moses wanted to see.
I got a text from you about that.
Yeah. Moses wanted to see the Kivov of God. It wasn't the glory of God. He knew that he was an alien. He knew that he was an Elohim. Moses knew this.
Oops. Ouch. Sorry.
Oh, brother, did you just drop that coffee?
No.
I was going to say, uh-oh.
I dropped the phone. I'm alone here, and I got to make sure that I don't miss any emergency broadcast messages.
Okay. You all right?
I'm all right.
I felt that one.
It was plugged in, and I grabbed it, and it fell and hit my toe. But we'll survive.
All right. But so
wow, that's powerful stuff. Moses connecting an ET, Yahweh's an ET. We know they're ETs. The Elohim came from somewhere else.
well, the Hebrew text is full of Anunnaki. It's ANNAQQIU. And I think I may have misspelled, but
Easy for you to say.
yeah, it's easy for me to say. So that is Anunnaki.
Yes.
The Hebrews knew this. The Catholic Church, Rome, did not want us to know this. And in fact, as it's been shown in the research I'm showing people, it was a mandate within the Catholic Church that this knowledge not be shared with only one, at the most two disciples, for the knowledge was so dangerous. They knew that if it ever got out, that this was the end of the basis of the Christian faith.
Yeah. And Sandra D says, good thing it wasn't the coffee in all capital letters. I think there's a little bit of a warning for me in that way. Good for you it wasn't the coffee is what I think that means.
Yeah. That Kevov. What have I got to say about that?
What have I got to say about that? Wow.
Yes.
And you know, it's interesting. We get back to our original thing about pain, and some of the study that I've done, there's this term called MEST, M-E-S-T, which I think is just a powerful mnemonic device for what we're dealing with. It stands for matter, energy, space, and time. And that's what we deal with. That's what we navigate.
Yeah.
And pain is a powerful motivator to get us through matter, energy, space, and time in our dealings with it. But I can't help but think there's a higher motivator that we can move past beyond just this. Pain reminds me of an animalistic, hit him with a cattle prod, smack him with a whip. It's a slave master mentality to me. And I think that we're better than, I would hope to believe that I'm convinced that we're better than that. And we can move beyond a pain, slave master motivation into a higher place of thought and mind and existence as we navigate through matter, energy, space, and time.
Wow, while you were saying that, this hit me. Let's take tattoos. Now, tattoos, anyone who, I don't have any, but
me either.
Those that do, it's an initiation. You have to endure the pain in order to get the mark. It's much the same way our society is based. Our society is based upon punishment, reward, pain, pleasure, pain, pleasure.
So what's the, extrapolate on that a little bit, Wayne?
Well, pain is the initiator that gets us into it. When you were talking, what I was trying to visualize, and this is what I heard, the master of this is one who can arise above the pain. That is when you become part of the spirit.
I agree with that. And Tracy Dyer says tattoos are a blood covenant.
I thank you, Tracy. I was not going to not to be offensive. You know, we're a host and we have to know our audience. But yeah, it is. In fact, it is.
There's a lot of people inked up, Wayne. There's no doubt about it. And
I've
talked with Rocky Stucci a little bit about it. Rocky has, two full, what are they called? Full sleeves or whatever on his arms. And I wonder about the imagery that some people tattoo on themselves with the blood sacrifice, even if it's not intended. What type of covenants and agreements and attachments are we making, or am I just too old and too straight to really be able to appreciate the beauty of tattoos?
No, because I refer to a chapter, and I'll get it later, but it's in Isaiah that Yahweh tells his people, you don't do that.
He did. He told them a lot of things, but that was one of the things. And if you get to but let's take it a step further. If he's the bad God and he says, don't do it, should we do it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't like pain. I don't like blood.
I don't either, especially those things together.
Yeah.
And I mean, think about it. And I've seen women and I've seen men do this. And this is the dumbest thing you could ever do. Let's say you fall in love with Billy. And you get a tattoo that says Billy, and it's got blood, and you got the pain, and then 2 months later you break up with Billy. I would argue, Wayne, and I will argue this in a respectful manner, that as long as you've got that tattoo on you, you've got some type of a psychic, energetic blood covenant connection to Billy. Period.
And it gets even stranger. The one who is the priest, that's the tattoo artist. He is the priest, the shaman, the mediator. And people don't realize this. He's laying on of hands, and they're doing the blood sacrifice, the covenant. And there's a lot of magic into this that people don't have any idea. And I like what Lynn said to me. She says, she says, after you've been a nurse for 35, 40 years, she said, the people that have the hearts right here, she says, women, it may be on the top of your breast now, it's going to be on your belly by the time you get to 70.
That's true. And somebody's talking about why would, Aboriginal peoples and stuff, what relevance does Christianity have to them? We're not talking about Christianity.
No.
We're talking about blood covenant relationships with energetic entities.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think, Jeff, what we're trying to say, people don't study the history.
Get the unicorn instead of the skull head.
Yeah. If you're going to, listen, and everyone has that right. If that's listen, my brother has them, and I remember when he got one, I said, didn't that hurt? He said, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It hurt a lot. And I said, well, why'd you do that? And he said, because it identifies who I am.
Yeah, and I can see
that's
that.
Cool. Yeah, I can do that.
I can see that.
Yeah.
It's just art. It's just fun. People say I've seen people with their with like their kids' feet tattooed on them. I mean, that's cute. And I don't see, what's the energetic connection of that? If you got something of your kid, I don't see where that could be bad. But think about it before you put some, Grim Reaper on you, or before you put some god on you, or the representation of some god. And, I had thought about actually doing this and putting on my right side, which is my male side, like the coat of arms of my paternal side and the coat of arms of my maternal side. Then I started looking at some of the symbology and imagery of all that. And what are you connecting yourself to? What energetic agreements are you entering into, and what type of entities? And is it really worth it to get to look cool?
I don't know.
Plus, it's expensive, Wayne.
It is expensive. And I was trying to think of the sister who I just read. It was over on the Project Camelot website. And I think she was right. She said, when you think about the inks, you got to think about what the ink is made of. And, it's metallic. And it gets into some really weird stuff. But, it's just, again, I
asked Rocky about that, and he said he's never had any trouble with any physical trouble, but Rocky's a young man. And who was it? It was a lady that said she's got 85 tattoos.
Well,
here in the chat room.
85 tats here. Okay.
85 tats. Who was that, Wayne? I didn't see.
I think that's Dawn.
Dawn, 85 tats. Wow.
Did it hurt?
I'm sure they all are. But do you get addicted to the pain?
Ooh. And, I just want to say, Mac, you are, okay, Mac, you had something. I'm going to be bringing up on my channel a thought that Yahweh is actually the god of Saturn, Cronus.
Oh, I think he is.
And here's the sigil of Saturn. And as you can see, it's very clear. It's on our money. This is the God we trust. That's what it says. In God we trust. And the sigil
is the money the God?
Yeah, it's Yahweh. Yeah, here he is. And this is a very interesting thing. So sigils, if you get one on your body, what's happening here? Well, I'll just relate something in my past. The band Led Zeppelin, they've made I think they made a pact. I don't know. I could be wrong. But they figured out the magic of the sigil of Saturn. And it's replete in all of their albums. It's, in fact, it's embedded in a lot of their lyrics.
Interesting. So you think they made a deal with Saturn?
Yep. In fact, I have the book, The Rite of Saturn. And while you're doing that, Jeff, let me pull it up because it's very interesting what Yahweh calls himself. So give me 1 second here.
And Delaney asked me to look up the scripture about the tattoos, and this is at least one of them. And it says, Leviticus 19:28, you shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you, for I am the Lord, he says.
Yeah. It's right there.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to show you something, Jeff. Okay, here we go.
Tattooing was practiced, and this is from the Dake's Annotated Reference Bible. Tattooing was practiced in various nations from the earliest times, as well as markings with all kinds of paint and cuttings in the flesh. These were connected with superstition and any disfiguration of the body. And he goes on to talk about Christianity, but yeah, interesting. So there is spiritual aspect to it. I would have to say that anybody that doesn't think there's any spiritual aspect to tattooing might want to rethink it a little bit.
Look into it. Listen, we are all initiates.
Yep.
But
don't unsubscribe, because I didn't say you shouldn't have tattoos.
No, it's all right.
I just said I wouldn't and won't and don't.
This is a book I have here, Jeff, The Rite of Saturn. And this is a really interesting book.
Frater Zoe, that's interesting too.
Yeah, it's Saturn is death and toil and work and time.
That's
sorrow.
Yahweh.
It's exactly. Now, let's take it. I'm going to go faster here because let everyone see. His God name is Jehovah Elohim.
Yep.
We have Yahweh Elohim. This is Jehovah Elohim.
Yep.
And his name
Jehovah really is not even a name. It's an amalgamation of the vowels of Adonai interspersed with the consonants of Yahweh. People wouldn't say the name.
Here we go.
So
and
Jehovah's a mixture of Yahweh and Adonai.
Here's the spell.
Boom.
There it is.
Boy, sometimes we're pretty good, Wayne, and we didn't talk about this before.
Yeah. Here's the spell. And you recite it to either Cronus, Saturnaeus, or as a mantra.
And what would this do? Would this make him manifest?
All right. So you can actually invoke him. Be very, very careful about doing so. It's not recommended. This is you talk about the sigils.
Right.
It tells you how you can make a sigil. It tells you how to build the altar. It tells you how to invoke the spell. And there is a warning at the end of this. It could bite you in the ass real bad.
Yeah, anything that says at the end, you may want to perform a banishing once more. You might want to think about that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, you might. So anyway, there you go.
They're saying, and it makes perfect sense. I never really thought about it. And really, that's what a Thanksgiving praise and worship service in a Christian church is all about. It is summoning the God of Yahweh.
Darla, you're not doomed. Come on, girl. Wear those tats proudly. Listen, it's not that big of a deal. It was the thing. And a lot of us do things that sometimes, I know as a kid, I did some things.
A lot of stupid things.
Listen,
what I might do if I had tattoos and wasn't aware of any of the connections that I've established by them, I would probably sit down and get into a meditative condition and bind, break, and cancel any
cleansing.
Yeah, do a cleansing. Absolutely. A breaking and a binding and a releasing of any attachments that I created, either knowingly or unknowingly.
Interesting that you said that.
And Naughty Beaver is in the chat room.
So
I'm still not sure what Naughty Beaver's deal is. I don't know. Does Naughty Beaver actually do videos? Does he see? I mean, do you ever see who he is? Or because I said to Derek, let's have him on. And I think he said he doesn't come on shows. I don't know. But anyway, he puts out some interesting information. I'm not sure I agree with all of it, but I think it's good information. And hey, the more the merrier. Come on in. The water's fine, right?
This is how we unify.
It is.
Diverse thoughts and opinions, and no one is right, no one is wrong. I do like this.
There is no right or wrong.
No, there isn't. And I think that's eventually what we find out.
Yep.
So this is, you can see it's the hereby rescinding the use of mygetic lineage, bloodline, consciousness, fractured or whole. We had
Interesting.
Sovereign Key. Remember Sovereign Key? I think
I
she
had her on.
started something. Here is someone who has taken this, and I'll leave the link. In fact, I'll put it here in the chat room. This is one of the most, they really took some time on this one.
Oh, this is that thing you guys were talking about, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, I declare free will as a sovereign element of the experience of all beings, and therefore I activate my free will to withdraw against contracts that seek to harm or divide the human people or other peoples of Earth in order to produce this disharmony, chaos, or suffering to promote the oppression of the true creative capacity of the human race. And it goes on.
I like it. And I
So,
see Og Talese on there, and we were talking about having him come on, and I let it fall through the cracks in my moves. So I got to get back on that.
yeah, you really should get him on. He is so, folks. I'll let this. This one is. I know. I taught everyone on my channel on Wednesday what happens when you go into a court of law. What happens when a witness has been proven to be their testimony to be in error, no longer it has what the court considers to be credibility, and then you try to rehabilitate the witness, and that many times doesn't work. And we all make contracts. I think we made a contract coming into this thing. I don't know. I could be wrong. But I do know this, that through our lives, we make many type of contracts. This one here, I think it's a good one. So anyway, Jeff, there we go.
I just got a quote. It's interesting. Let me just read this real quick.
Sure.
Now, if you yourself all by yourself could actually change the world and don't think that you couldn't, there are people all over the place who tell you that you can't, but that's because you can. It should be very, very frightening to you to realize that if people have to work this hard to convince you you can't change everything around, it must be that you have some danger in doing so. You must be slightly dangerous. If everybody worked this hard to convince you that you mustn't do anything and you mustn't take responsibility for anything, then it follows that there must be some menace from your quarter. You can feel very, very proud if everybody has been jumping on you with both feet most of your life. You must be dangerous.
I agree with that.
I like that.
I like that a lot. Well, I've tried to put this into the chat. It won't let me put it in because of apparently there is a web address. So anyway.
Oh, well, I thought you were a moderator and you could do that. Make a comment in there, Wayne, and I'll make you a moderator, and you can you'll be able to put it in there. Just make any kind of comment, unless you say Jeff looks funny.
Looks normal to me. Of course, then how do you define normal?
There is no normal, is there?
No.
Yeah, you should be able to put in links now.
Okay. Let's see what we got.
Perfect. Don't take it personally, Naughty Beaver, for they do not know what they do, to quote Christ. I'm not sure what that means. Is Naughty Beaver more mainline Christian than we are?
I don't know.
I don't either know. I that's one of my downfalls is I'm so busy doing my own stuff and now having to do some work too that I don't get a chance to watch other people's material very much.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you start doing this, you just, good Lord, you just.
There's the link, folks.
Yeah. And by the way, I know last time we talked about which Bible, the 29th chapter of the book of Acts is.
Oh, yeah.
It is, folks, the Cipher.
Cipher.
Potato. Tapata. And I actually have it here, and very interesting that what happens to Paul. Long and the short of it is he leaves Rome, goes to Spain, then goes up to Britain, stays up in Britannia, then goes over and apparently spends a couple years with the Druids.
Interesting.
He blesses the Druids and their message. He then comes back, and of all people that is there is, and I want to make sure I got this right. So give me a second here, Jeff,
Sure.
as you read this.
I'll be able to talk to Naughty personally, though, at the end of November, so I'll know what he's all about by then. We'll all be heading out to Derek's for the Hopi extravaganza.
Oh, so he meets Pontius Pilate. And Pontius Pilate is tossed over a cliff at Paul's hands.
You know why? Because if it happened, and I'm still betwixt in between of whether it happened or not, but the whole scene of we want Barabbas, not Jesus, that whole thing, Paul stirred that mob up. It wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to be a problem. Paul stirred that mob up. Pontius Pilate was just trying to keep the peace. And Pontius Pilate was, the name Pontius Pilate means that he's an expert with the javelin. And he would always carry his javelin around when he was making his, official appearances. And Pontius Pilate, and Paul knew it because he was within range, Pontius Pilate was this close to launching that javelin at Paul when Paul was creating that rabble that put Jesus on the cross if he went to the cross, and it wasn't Jesus if it was Thomas. But anyway, so there's a history of animosity between those two.
I did not know that.
And Pilate didn't like it that Paul was given police powers in his district. Paul could do whatever he wanted, kill people, rape people, do whatever he wanted. And Pontius Pilate, the prefect, couldn't do anything about it because Paul had power from Caesar himself.
A true diplomatic immunity.
He had true diplomatic immunity.
Now, you know what I find interesting is what they call Yeshua.
Pontius Pilate wanted to squash his misshapen head like a bug and couldn't do it.
Wow. And here they say that Yeshua's name has to be addressed Adonai Yeshua.
Interesting. So that connects plastic Jesus to the Adonai, to Saturn, to Yahweh.
It does.
Folks, if you have more than 2 functioning brain cells and you have maybe 1 or 2 that are still objective, you can't miss this. It's plain as day. We've been duped.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. Wayne, what do you think about the Mandela effect? Is it real? It's in the chat room.
I think if a person has cognitive memory, that you can overcome the Mandela effect. The fact that if we're talking about it means that we are recognizing that there's an alteration.
Yeah.
So does it mean that the alteration is happening? Well, something's going on, but it's only happening, I think, in the fact of this digital world. I thought it was interesting, by the way, with Elon Musk smoking his joint and drinking the whiskey.
I barely saw that. I didn't watch it.
Well, I got to tell you.
Was it on with Joe Rogan?
Yeah. And
that's where Alex Jones was hitting the bong, too.
So
Rogan must try to get these people to smoke dope with him.
He must, because listen, I think.
Joe, if you have me on, I won't smoke it. I'll tell you right now.
Elon is a cool guy. Listen,
great show, by the way, Joe Rogan.
But he gives so much credibility to the fact that he believes a lot like this is a huge simulation. And if you read the Gnostics and you read the Hebrew and you read everything else, I think there's a lot of credibility to that.
Yeah, Jay Campbell and I just talked about that. Was it Friday or Thursday? It all runs together. But he's convinced of that as well. And the one thing that I have to admit, as far as Mandela effects in the Bible, I'm pretty doggone sure it used to be the lion and the lamb. Now it's the wolf and the lamb. And if you get into the actual Hebrew of it, it says the wolf is a usurper in a place where he doesn't belong. So, and Daniel said it was going to happen.
And it is happening.
And the one thing that, it's stupid as it is, the one thing that convinces me that there really is a Mandela effect is, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. I heard you say that 100 times. My mom loved that show, and it's nowhere to be found, Wayne. Ricky Ricardo never said those words. And I know he did. I heard him.
All right. So I made a comment on my channel.
Thank you, Fishman.
Thank you, Fishman. That's a good guy. And I don't know where this came from, Jeff, but I just told everyone, I said, do not be surprised if we wake up one morning and the constellations have changed.
Nigel says Musk looked like a clone on that show.
Yeah, he didn't look normal, did he?
I mean, Jay Campbell went so far as to say that most of the politicians and Hollywood people that we know are clones or have been cloned.
Oh, it gets, I think, even more when you begin to read, and I'll pull it up, the article that
Wade,
says, what?
Are you a clone?
Well, if I am, I'm a thinking one. I could be just an avatar in this meat suit living out an experience, you know.
Yeah.
I get the idea sometimes, Jeff, that when we pass through that veil, they're going to punch our ticket and say, how'd you like that ride?
Yeah. Rachel Stone says that Musk opened the interview by saying he was an alien. I didn't see it, but you know, he could have been joking, or was he telling the truth?
I only caught, okay, I'm going to have to go back and re-listen to that. I think we're in a time now.
And Delaney says she's got Hillary eating a fly on video. Zizaz Oraz, thank you so much.
Pretty cool. Listen, I had a woman, she hasn't written me, but right after the election, when I did the whole video, that there had been a shift that had taken place.
Yeah.
And in fact, this was about 7 months ago, where she swore that she says, I am not supposed to be here. She says, the man that I've been married to, and for a decade or so, she said, that is not the man that I married.
Wow. Philip says Musk is a reptilian hybrid, guaranteed.
Well, if you believe what the bloodlines say, we are not alone.
Yeah. We
are not alone. And I think after anyone could read the Bible and any other text beyond that, what's the Hindu Bible?
How did that slip my mind too? Is it the Vedas?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. That we are not the only species here. We're not. And even if you don't, and you want to take out all the evidence of aliens, spaceships, interacting with our race, genetic mutations into our species, the fact is, it would be lunacy to think that us, Homo sapiens sapiens, have been walking this planet for millions of years.
Alone. Nani Beaver says that Nostradamus explained that only God declares the future. If man has the ability to go back in time, God will still decide the future, regardless of what man changes, hence the Mandela effect. Couple of questions. How can we trust Nostradamus? And secondly, which God declares the future? Interesting comment.
Yeah, and I would have to say, Naughty Beaver, you need to explain to me which God.
Yeah, I want to know which God, too. Yeah. And Derek and I have been talking a lot about that, because there's at least two of them. Even within the Bible, there's at least two of them.
If we can break out the Western...
now, there's got to be three of them if you go with Psalm 82, because if a God is in the assembly of the gods, dictating to the gods, that means there's got to be at least three.
Kabbalism teaches that there were 10 Elohims that divided the planet up.
Yeah.
And that's why you never see these gods coming, against one another. They'll let us fight those battles, but they themselves will not.
Was Nostradamus a Jesuit?
I've never heard that.
I've never heard that either. I need to write that down for some research after this.
Who said that he was a Jesuit?
Someone said, wasn't he a Jesuit?
That's very interesting. Dyer. Yeah. That I do not know.
Wow, that would change things, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of great faith in Nostradamus. He was wrong way too many times for me to...
I put Nostradamus and his quatrains much to what I do with Edgar Cayce.
Yeah, I'd say they're in the same boat.
Yeah. I think there's legitimacy that they tapped into a record. I had this great argument, not an argument, discussion, and the gentleman was right. If the infinite being exists outside of time, then is he aware of time here?
Or does he even care?
That is a really poignant thought.
Yeah. Sterling thinks that Nostradamus was a Jesuit.
Okay.
We'll
Well,
see.
I don't know. I mean, it's
Best Damn Podcast loves him some Edgar Casey.
well, listen, I was a student of his Edgar Casey's Enlightenment.
And Nostradamus was an advisor to the royals.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
You know,
it's so interesting. I mean, the things that we get into, and the rabbit holes have rabbit holes, which have rabbit holes.
This is an interesting take on the Gnostic tradition of Mary, Jesus, and his disciples.
Wow.
It's Pistis Sophia. And now, you know what's so interesting? Now, every time I hear wisdom or faith, it's Pistis Sophia.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, Jeff, I wanted to bring this up for our discussion. Pistis was first, before knowledge, faith.
Interesting, yeah.
Isn't that to me, that's profound.
Mr. Alphister, I haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back. And Wayne, I'm so far down the rabbit hole that I'm this close to being convinced that if there was a Christ on earth, it was probably Mary Magdalene. And if there was a male that was the mouthpiece, he was just being fed his lines by Mary Magdalene.
She seems to be... All right, let's talk about this. I reject, number one, I don't believe that there was a physical person here born of a virgin. I don't believe that story.
You can't prove it. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, it could have happened. Who knows? I just know that Horace was told the same story 2,500 years prior.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I'm thinking about this Yaldabaoth. All right. We will call him, he, in my mind, is the Elohims. So they are enslavers. Very obvious that this is a sick deity. He's the one who created heaven. He's the one who created hell. So,
well, it says in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. If it's the bad God, then he very much did.
Yeah. When I wrote you over the week, earlier this week in that text, it started to train of thought. Jeff, I think there was something from the outside of this that penetrated this chaos and emanated itself as a being of light, which could have been very well Mary Magdalene. All I do believe is that there was a message given to humanity, and I think this message has been given in many different cultures. But the bottom line of it is, it seems that love is the strongest weapon in our arsenal.
I think it is. It sounds counterintuitive, but I think it really is.
Yeah. And that's why I have the one thing I will say with the New Testament, whoever wrote, if Paul wrote this 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8, then bravo. Yeah. It was a masterpiece of inspiration, and it's one that I now apply to my life, that love is not fretful, it's not resentful, it does not take accounted a harm done to it. It's ever ready to believe the best of every person. It holds up under anything and everything it comes. It never fades.
Yeah. There's good evidence that he hijacked that from a speech he heard Yeshua give, if he ever existed. So
yeah. And Mary Magdalene. So when you read this particular take of it, Mary is the spokesperson.
Yeah.
She's the one who the Christos anoints and blesses. She's the only one that has the answers.
And Mary had the money too.
Yeah, she did. I mean, she's the only one, as I was reading this morning, when the Christ would ask the question about the universe, about all this, she was the one who always had the answer. It wasn't the rest of the dudes.
It was. I mean, even Augustine called her the apostle to the apostles.
Yes. So why is she so diminished?
Yeah. That's a good question, isn't it?
You know, I heard some guy railing on people like us that, you know, he says these people that try to breed in the feminine, that try to make God a goddess, you know, they're in error. You know, this is against the teaching of the Bible. And I'm going, what?
So I'd be like, and?
You know, if you got a papa, if you have father, mother has to be there somewhere.
You can't have any birth without a female.
And these women know this. All the women here, you know, it's like, you guys try to give birth.
Yeah, not going to work. You don't even have the stuff inside to facilitate that.
I used to suffer from kidney stones. And
Oh, how was that, Wayne? How was it giving birth to a kidney stone?
yeah, yeah. You know, you can get so much in pain, you don't look human anymore.
I can imagine.
You really can. I bent the rail on, you know how they put you in the emergency room and they put the rails up on the side? I literally bent it. So think about that.
That is a lot of pain.
Yeah. So anyway.
Oh no, Wayne, the Twilight Sparkle Halloween costume attempt for delivery was unsuccessful.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Gonna have to do some work on that.
All right.
You'll
be fine. You'll be fine.
Wow.
Just a slight little oversight, not a big deal.
Just a little wrinkle. Well, Wayne, tell everybody what you're working on and where they can find your great information.
Our Wayne Steigel over on YouTube. We are continuing the Origin series, and
excellent.
We're going to be doing on Monday, where we find out that God, the God of this Bible, dies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it in the scripture that he dies?
Yeah. Psalms 82.
Someone's telling me Halloween is satanic. Thank you very much.
You know, it's okay. Yeah, in Psalms 82, El Supreme tells the Yahweh, it tells the Elohims, you're going to die just like Adam.
Oh, they does say that, doesn't it? That's powerful.
Yeah, you're going to die just like Adam.
The Twilight Sparkle costume is not for me, no.
Okay.
I will not be dressing like a unicorn.
So, as we point out, I think it's going to be fun. I think that this birthright, Jeff, has more importance to us than what we realize. That's all I'm going to say. So, anyway.
I do too.
How are you going to do this week?
I'm not really sure. We got a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of fun stuff. Jay Campbell for sure. We're going to bring the Rapscallions are going to rise again. Excellent. And other than that, I'm not sure. We got a lot going on this week.
Well, people will be listening to it on my channel, folks. Make sure you tune into Jeff. If you haven't subscribed, sure do. And make sure you hit the alert button.
Absolutely. Please do. Well, Wayne, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
And I salute all of you here in the chat room for Seeking After Truth. Incredible chat. Great stuff here. Wayne, it's always a privilege and an honor to be with you.
Thank you.
We are the last generation of real humans. I'm glad that there's people like Wayne helping us get ourselves to the place that we need to be. Thanks again, Wayne. Thanks again to all of you.
Bye-bye.